Me?
Welcome to the inaugural edition of Rainmaker's Roundtable. Today's January 25th, 2023. I'm Andrew Shaw, and I'll be one of our hosts here today. With me to talk about the world of ADUs is mortgage superstar Dave McGee. Dave, how are you? David?
I'm great, thank you.
Good, good. And an insurance aficionado, Ken Talley, or just guy's been doing a lot of insurance for a long time. Ken Talley, how are you, Ken?
Good, thank you very much. Appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, good, good, good. And so what we're going to talk about today, we're here in North County, San Diego, and here we have a little bit of an affordability crisis. We have a lack of real estate as the Pacific Ocean is kind of cutting off us from Western expansion. And so for that reason, we have limited space and a lot of people that want to live here. And the world of ADUs are extremely a topic of conversation for homeowners, for investors, for tenants, for everybody to kind of think about. And so I thought we could talk to Dave, who's a great guy to start with, because if you think about an ADU, the first thing to think about is where the money comes from. And so Dave's probably a great place to start. Another great thing to think about if you have an ADU is to, of all the things that can go wrong with that ADU, and an insurance guy might be a great guy to talk to about
Absolutely.
that. As for me, my name is Andrew Shaw. My qualifications to talk about ADUs is that I live in one, for one. And for two, I'm a chartered retirement planning counselor. I shouldn't say a lot of my clients, but handfuls of my clients have or have shown interest or have started to have ADUs. And so seeing people go through these, seeing some of the investment results of the cash outlay and then seeing the cash come back, it's been interesting. Some success stories, some not, and we'll kind of hash out some of the differences. But that's a little bit about me. Dave, tell me just a little bit about, or tell us a little bit about your background as it relates to ADUs.
Well, I've been in residential lending for over 30 years. Lived in the North County of San Diego. Been a resident here, went to college at UCSD. And I just do home loans, but I do them as a broker. So I deal with a bunch of different lenders and different products. I do forward loans, I do reverse mortgages, I can do equity lines, I do all kinds of stuff. Whatever the client needs, I will do it. So that's kind of what my niche is. I work for a company called C2, and we're a group of people like myself that together we have collective power and pricing and all things. So I found this the best way to kind of do this business, and that I believe that and have the power of the group, but the independence to deal with the customer on their own. So, but that's what I do. I do lending, and also I'm a certified senior advisor. So I've taken coursework and I belong to a group of CSAs. And so I know something about aging. Not enough to have a PhD in it, but I know enough to know the community and what's going on and issues and other things. So I think it helps because the solution for seniors isn't always just money. It usually revolves around money, but there's other things. So I'm a good referral source for helping people, so helping families trying to figure it out.
Beautiful. And also to your point there, it's like that generation has a lot of, there's a lot of equity in these places, especially in that generation, right? And maybe untapped equity.
I think on my slides, it's a $11.5 trillion.
Yeah.
In equity right now in the senior community. Yeah. There's these stunning numbers. There's these I think it's 70% of people over 70 years old own their homes free and clear, no debt whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's just a huge, and they all got house rich with all the cycles and value over time. So there's I call it trapped equity. And I don't like trapped equity because sometimes you can't untrap it if you need it. It's not that I don't personally not like it. I look for ways to untrap it.
Right. No, makes sense. Ken Talley, tell us a little bit about your business and your and how it relates maybe to ADUs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So I've been an insurance broker and had my own brokerage, CLS Insurance, for the last 15 to 16 years. 80% of my book and my experience is with commercial side, which is going to be businesses basically, and their needs, general liability, workers' comp, property, things of that nature. The other 20% is generally going to be the home auto side around this area, and my client base, it mostly seems to support a lot more of my business clientele. So the homes are, sometimes they're starter, but often they're not. And so as the ADU and the JADU things have been, or the JDUs, I might say that wrong. Dave will help me out with that later. As those things have been kind of percolating up, it's been interesting in the insurance world because now you start seeing some crossover, right? It's like before, it's like you got a roommate, okay, that's fine. You're renting out a room or whatever. Homeowners insurance, renters insurance, whatever, that's fine. But then it starts turning into a little bit of a business, and the carriers didn't really know what to do with that because it becomes a business now. And insurance likes to be separate. That makes them comfortable. So we're kind of still in the middle of the insurance carriers trying to figure out what to do with this thing. And long story short is that can leave our homeowners and our landlords sometimes with gaps that they might not realize that they have, that they really don't want, or maybe there's some other options and ways to go about it. Anyway, so I found it interesting over the years to kind of, well, this the last few years really, because it's just exploded. Just to see how the industry's been dealing with it and seeing how to kind of place clients and help them be able to hold on to their equity and not have it sued out from under them because of some kind of loss or something like that. That's about it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great intro. And no, it, it all speaks to, there's just not enough housing here in Southern California. And it's, a natural evolution, I guess, would be for us either to go, can't go west, don't really want to go east, kind of like it right here. So you got to go up or down. We could start living in bunkers. I guess that's the other option. But we can't really go up even, because of, we don't, for whatever reason, we don't really go up that much. And so this is kind of the evolution, is that you just start throwing up ADUs. So, Dave, maybe we can, you did a great job preparing these slides. We appreciate it. And
Sure.
Maybe you can just kind of walk us through these. I'll try and help you.
Yeah, I can do that. It's interesting though, this affordability thing. We're talking about the big game changer is the state came in and changed some playing rules. And I mean, I've been in real estate for a long time, and this never happened, but they came in and said, we have an affordability problem out of San Francisco, really is where it started. And, but if you think about it, a lot of single families in the next decade or two are going to change to 3-unit properties. And so if you think about that, if we have an affordability issue, it's not a bad idea, right? I mean, if I live next door and I say, oh, I don't want that happening next door to me, or I don't want that happening, that in the old days, the state couldn't tell me what to do, but I think maybe it is a solution for a lot of things, because how do you solve affordability? You have to increase density. There's just no way around it. So it is the Wild West, like Ken's saying, and I'm sure on the insurance side, it's interesting because there's a lot of variables. So an ADU this slide is it's an accessory dwelling unit. So the deal with it is it's not attached to the house. And the state's rule is 1,200 square feet. In the city of Carlsbad, it's only 1,000. So there's different like nuances on what the state's saying you can do. So it's the traditional granny flat. When I was a kid, we had a cottage in the back by the pool for my dad's aunt, grandma, right? And so it's kind of like an old thing coming back and being new. All right. And so they can, up in San Francisco, they're only like 750 is the square footage or 600 square foot. So they have smaller units. But down here, we can go up to 1,200 square feet, which is a big house. I mean, that's like 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, that kind of thing. So that's what an ADU is.
So
And
the
then the JDU the JDU is a junior accessory dwelling unit, and it has to be within the footprint of the house. So you can't increase the square footage of the house, and it has to be within the house. And so it has a separate entrance, separate bathroom, separate. Another word they use is an efficiency unit, is another word for it. So the one that I find the most intriguing is converting a garage. I think a garage and the square footage on it is 500 square feet. So most garages are like 400 to 500 square foot.
So Dave,
I'm always looking now at properties on Zillow and checking out the garage. It's funny, they don't always take photos of the garage. I always want to see the garage. So
Yeah.
that's what
Go
a
ahead, Ken.
JDU is.
I
ahead,
was just gonna ask Dave, so that 1,200 is, so the state says on ADUs, 1,200 square foot max, but I think I hear you saying is that your city, whatever city that might be, might have a lower number than that, but it could be as high as 1,200, but that's where the state caps the ADUs.
Right.
And then inside the footprint would be like an attached garage or something like that. And then those would be the JADUs, and
Yeah.
those cap out at 500 square feet.
500.
That's summarizing that?
Yeah,
pretty
that
well?
summarizes it. And then on another side, the JADU has no parking requirement whatsoever. None. And the ADU might have a parking requirement by the city. But that's the big issue on developing stuff in the past has been parking. Where are you going to put the cars? And they always were able to stop things because of parking requirements.
I think most of us feel that, especially coastal, that feel like the city isn't really too worried about how many cars are stacking up all over the place.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a very, very hip thing that younger people understand because they want to live somewhere and they need housing. I'm trying to look at seniors and they're not there with it so much, but that's part of being a senior. So
Yeah.
no offense to seniors.
No, I know. Yeah, no, it must be nice, right? I mean, to not want to deal with it, right? Because you have the equity, you have the option, right?
Yeah.
You own the house free and clear. But
Yeah.
like you
But
said,
you know
I
what?
think
It's funny. In
Yeah.
this mixture of, if you turn your house to a 3-unit house, I think, and you look at it moving forward, there will be family members that might live in the back house. There might be like Andrew and his wife and their newborn, or not so newborn, their daughter, right?
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, hey, once you get over that and say, okay, well, I'm living it on my parents' property, but I'm not living with them. So
Seems like as you age as well, your option at some point is going to be, you need to start getting some regular care or some help. And so your option at that point is you're either going to go to, Belmont Village or something of that nature, a retirement home,
yeah,
or you can age in place. But if you age in place, then, it would be nice to have some quarters there that you can maybe even trade out living quarters as part of the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
so here, if we go deeper into my slides, I'll hit that quick.
So I
So
won't
let's
hit
see.
on that right now.
Yeah, so there's a JDU.
Yeah.
Next one is there's Tom Selleck, the
Uh-huh.
spokesman for AAG, and that's just a reverse mortgage. I do reverse mortgages amongst other things. I think what's cool is I do them in addition to other types of mortgages. So I'm not just an expert in reverse mortgages. I can do all kinds of financing, but 55 and up is the rule, no mortgage payment. The growth is internal and there's no payment. And so you have to occupy the home. We come up with these numbers for what the loan amounts are by age, rate, and value. And then the last part is I put their non-recourse debt. You never owe more than the current appraised value of the property. That's a little bit bizarre, but that's what it is. It's flat out what it is. They're not going after the heirs or anything like that. And quite frankly, very few of these properties go upside down because they figured out the morbidity tables, and houses have continued to go up very quickly. So they're appreciating much faster than the internal growth on the reverse. So I don't want to get too technical on reverses, but that would be the tool. That's the tool that piqued my interest for this slide presentation, because it's a way of getting money to build this stuff by professionals and not have a mortgage payment.
Right. So the three primary ways to maybe finance an ADU would be a HELOC,
Yeah.
a reverse, or just or I guess those are the two by far, right? Or I mean, is that kind of what you're seeing?
Well, yeah, like right now, because rates are so high, if rates were lower, people would be doing cash out refis and just putting it back into a new first. But I'd say you're right, equity line. The rare bird is the reverse. This is really pioneering. I just see it as a great opportunity. But I'd say the high percentage of these things currently are being done through equity lines, and younger people who qualify and make enough money and have enough equity are pulling it that way, and then hoping that they can bundle it all back into a new loan in the future. So, but I like Tom Selleck. I like I like the guy. I trust him.
And he's got a great mustache.
What's this one? Oh, here's some of the senior stuff. So 80% of seniors over 75 have no mortgage. Think about that one. That's heavy. Over 75, 80% have zero mortgage. 11.5 trillion in equity for seniors over 65. The reverse mortgage only penetrates 2% of its potential market. So nobody has these things. They don't know what they are. They just see them on the TV. And it's an incredible opportunity for there's a market there to pioneer in. So it's intriguing. That's that one.
Yeah. No, that is pretty phenomenal. And I think
that's phenomenal.
And I think people, I guess the people are like, well, yeah, of course I want to have my house paid off by the time I retire. But around here, at least, man, if you own a house free and clear, that is a lot of equity.
If you take money and you do responsible things with it and try and solve problems, I'm a big advocate. I don't care what you do with your money, but if you go to Paula Casino and play, poker every day on it, then maybe that would upset me as a child or a potential heir of the estate of whoever. But these are solutions to help parents and not even lose the value of the estate. So here's this one's a good one. This has got a tsunami wave, right? A silver tsunami is a term they use, that, hey, this stuff is coming and hitting the seniors, the boomers, the late end boomers. And how are we going to deal with all the inflation, food, energy? Stock market isn't giving us what we want, and healthcare costs are all up. And so I think about energy, right? Because this week everyone's screaming, I got my bill and it's $800 for gas. I mean, shoot, what does that mean to somebody who's just getting Social Security and a $500 pension check from, I don't know how they're pulling it off. So costs are up, right? And so how are you going to, so that's why this reversing is cool, because you won't have a payment, but you might be able to get more income. So we go to the next one. I think it's like, let's see. Oh, people want to stay in their homes, especially post-COVID. They don't want to stay in places. It's really 90% want to stay in their own homes. Men and women live different durations. I think we all think we're going to die at the same time. We don't. Those are considerations for like all these different units on your property. Some people die of physical issues, and some people kind of have cognitive issues. And those are two kind of things that kind of change the aging in place playing field. So I think I talk about the next one. Let's see here. That's a good little cartoon there, because that one shows really what we're talking about. It should, that thing in the detached one should be shaded, But that's literally what we're doing. We're just making a box in the back and taking a box out of the front house. And I think it's the big thing is turning one unit into three.
Got it. So that picture right there then is the separate units, the ADU.
Yeah,
And shaded unit on the right is the J.
shaded one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the rest would be the main house. I mean, that's pretty simple, Simon, right? And I'm saying, let's put trapped equity to work. Let's see what I say there. Use a reverse to fund it, no payments. I think the thing too is it solves the aging in place. Some of the gives you more options. And also it increases the value of the property. Because now you've got a triplex, and I mean, I can finance it and do things with it. The other thing I say there is, can we do this? I go, you know, it's actually a goal for California right now, and they're all on board. And I don't think they're going to politically change their attitude. They need to solve the housing crisis. So this is how they're going to do it. Let's see. So this one is just a pie in the sky example. I'm taking a home. And this wouldn't probably be on the coast. This would be probably one out in San Marcos or something. So I'm thinking the home would rent for $3,000 a month. The JDU might go for $1,300 a month. The ADU would rent for $1,900 a month. And so then these are the little mixtures, and they all involve you living in one of the units, right? So the first one is I live in the home, I rent the JDU, and I rent the ADU. So that brings me in $3,200 extra. The next one is I live in the JDU, I rent the house. Maybe my husband's passed and I don't need the room and I'm not around because I'm traveling. And you rent the home and you rent the ADU, and that gets you to $4,900 a month. And then the last one is I live in the ADU because I don't want to live attached to anyone, and I rent the home in JDU, and that gets you to like $4,300. So all of those are additional income, and that's something, because when you think about maybe if bringing in $500 a month, $5,000 a month in retirement is more than Social Security's ever going to do.
Now, if you, Dave, do you have to live on the property to have ADU or a JADU?
You have to live in one of the variable ones. So you have to occupy the property, right? You have to be there. And it's funny too, because in the cities, I'm finding out there are deed restrictions when you do this. And so they're saying, okay, you can do this, like I think Oceanside, another one, you can do this, but somebody has to live somewhere. So it's kind of mirroring.
Right.
I don't know exactly the details of it, but I think occupancy has to be part of it. But with a reverse, you can be gone half the year.
Got it. So it could almost be like a second home. If you're traveling and
absolutely.
That nature.
Yeah. You don't have to be there every single day.
So look to your city to kind of see if they've got any specifics on that.
Yeah.
But it can't be a rental, basically, is what you're saying, though.
No, you can rent. So I'm renting. Look at all of those have me renting 2 of the 3 units.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, like, you couldn't have a rental property and be like, okay, I'm going to throw up an ADU and JDU on my rental. That's not what you could do.
Well, you could, and then that's a whole different discussion, right? And then you have to. I'm really keeping in the context of. I'm kind of hitting a narrow window here. I'm looking for somebody first that has equity in their home, and so this is. But for sure, you could do it and increase the rental. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. And I think actually the flurry of activity in the state are people coming up with the money to doing it and getting it done, and not being old, they're young. Right.
I would wonder or guess or hypothesize, Andrew, that if you owned a property that was a rental property, not something that you lived on, then that becomes like a duplex or a triplex. At least it does from like an insurance situation. I'm guessing that the ADU and the JADUs, where the government's kind of letting you float by on some of the things, like here in Encinitas, I think if you use their ADU plans and you don't have to pay for filing permits or something of that nature, they cover, it's like 10 grand that they save you or something.
Yeah.
And
and I would need, if I moved from the JDU to the house, I'd have to call Ken and say, hey, Ken, I'm now occupying this, and I need a renter's policy or whatever it is for, and that's funny because all that is changing, right? So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think the other thing too that's a changing factor with the two is the ADUs. This is an interesting one. They don't have to have all the title. They don't have to have all this clean energy stuff, which I believe in. I think it's good, but they're not required solar and these other things that they're forcing on new construction
Oh,
right
so
now.
like maybe that's
So that's another
on a duplex or
another little perk.
Yeah.
There are grants. You can get up to $40,000 to help you with the money on it. So it's a constantly changing thing, but it's a topic of discussion. I'm looking at it for seniors and retirement is really this.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I see what you're saying though. I mean, basically, I think I like the idea of focusing on your
Yeah, I think it's all good, but this one is so sweet. You have to fit the mold for this thing. You've got to have equity in your home.
Yeah.
You have to be free and clear and not realize that you have this potential. So this one, long-term care, those turning 65 have about a 70% chance of having some long-term care. The average length is 3 years. Here's a one I learned when I became an advisor. It was I think the first test question. If you have physical decline, it takes about 3 years until you pass away. And if you have cognitive issues, it takes about 8 years. And so if you have cognitive issues, it's a big number because you don't go slowly and you need lots of care. And so that last one is in 2021, the average cost of 3 years of long-term care is $438,000 or $146 a year. Now that is care in a facility. Okay, so if the next slide I think talks about care at home. Okay, so in home, if I'm staying at home, this is a survey and it says that it's $77,000 a year, $77,678 or about $6,500 a month. So it's cheaper to stay at home and get care. And then the other trippy thing about it is like interesting thing about it is 1 in 5 Americans are caregivers. There's 53 million adults that are taking care of their parents or somebody in their family. It's just a fact of life, right? Traditionally and culturally, people have taken care of their parents, especially if they can't afford to have outside care.
Dave,
yeah, I think that's that.
2 thoughts that come to mind on that really quick is one is the aging at home. It's like this in-home care, or even the slide before, it's there is insurance for that, but it is so expensive. My feelings about it is that it's really expensive. And when you look at the slide, you're like, oh, $6,400 a month. It's like, okay, well, if you have the ADU and the JADU, well, you're kind of getting a chunk of that taken care of right there.
Yeah.
So I could see how that would be really helpful for somebody.
Yeah, I mean, in this instance, let's say you don't have the person living in the JDU. They come to the house, but you're still generating all that income.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's a family member and you've got an agreement. If you go to the next one, I think the next slide is cool because it says resources for family caregivers. So this is kind of cool. People take care of their parents or family members, and so it says that first part, while you're spending time cooking, cleaning, transportation, and the activities of daily living, you are not receiving compensation for your time. You may be eligible to receive compensation for caring for your parents through community resources, long-term insurance, veterans benefits, and other sources. I would say for Andrew, if you had an insurance policy that has an option for long-term care, because nobody's really doing long-term care policies, but any of these things, you can compensate. I could get compensated as your son and get paid from the policy to take care of you.
Yeah, not only that, Dave, though, if you look at, there's another way to do that too. Like I've got a buddy of mine that ended up with Parkinson's, and it hit him really hard. And so it's, basically he had to go through some process, but the state basically gives him money for food and disability. The state gives him money for housing, right? And it's like, there's a lot of young, older adults that have equity in their home. It's a 3-hour course on the weekend that you can take. You can let somebody that needs that kind of, just not a lot of attention, but just a little bit of caregiving, move into that spot. And then still that older person that's maybe a retired nurse, and you don't even have to be a nurse, be able to get compensated for helping that person out with their meals and, things of that nature. So it's a way
Yeah.
for someone that's
I mean,
older.
if I have a long-term care policy and it says I get $300 a day, I can pay my son to take care of me. And it's on the up and up, and it would be with the insurance company. So you can actually compensate these people. Before it was kind of like you do it because you love them and whatever, right? But even through the VA and like you're saying, there's these Medi-Cal programs and state programs.
And disability type stuff, like you see the placard that, the handicap placard or whatever. It's like, as we age, we get to a point where we're not able to do certain things. And then at least here in California, I don't know what it's like everywhere. And this is anecdotal because I've just seen it with some other people. I'm not studied on it.
Yeah.
The state will allocate, depending on where they're at, in their progress, $800, $1,000 a month, $1,200 a month, that if you don't use it, you lose it. But if you want to have somebody help you with things, you have that to pay them with.
Yeah.
So
this kind of sets up the accommodations to do it. So this one is cash flow with home care. So I just took those same numbers from the other housing thing, and I just took the same assumptions, and I basically stuck that caregiver into one of those units. So in this case, that person's getting paid $6,400 a month, which is the national average, or the California average, I'm sorry. And also you're giving them free room and board. So this is very generous, right? But even there, right? I mean, if it costs me $6,400 to pay for the care, but I'm still getting this new income from these other units. Now I don't have to come up with $6,400. If I live in the home, I come up with $3,200. If I live in the JDU, I come up with $1,500. If I live in the ADU, I come up with $2,100. So you can really take down that $6,400 a month cost and make it affordable. So, and this is also, I mean, I would think that you could get $1,000 or something, or get some negotiated rent with a caregiver who could live in the JDU, and it could be a family member. I bet it. Many times it is. So.
No, and I think, just one more thing on this slide is like, no, good points. And I think to me, the biggest takeaway is like, you have levers to pull, you have optionality, right? And that's really, at the end of the day, one of the biggest things that I would want to optimize for in my strategy, retirement plan or long-term care plan or whatever, is having options and having levers to pull. An insurance contract can be useful, but it's not a lot of optionality. It's pretty straightforward. Right. Your option is pretty much, and it's costly. Like this is something that, especially price appreciation and rent growth and stuff. This could very well be an investment, right? That helps fund. So anyway, it's the levers, the optionality, I think, is very attractive.
If you have a policy or a long-term care agreement, I believe that you are within the structure of it, where they don't just write a check to anybody, at least on a long-term care one, right? But you meet their criterion. And they will be very happy with you providing this service, right? It's probably at a savings to them. So, I think the other thing with this at-home thing, I mean, the perfect scenario is, look at my wife and I, we launched the kids, we're home, we're learning about being retired, and we're having fun. So we're renting out the JDU and the ADU, and we got some extra money. maybe we travel, whatever, but if we've got more money, right? But we don't have a bigger mortgage payment. We got a reverse. We don't have it. And we took all that money and improved the property's value, right? And so let's say time comes along, we can't travel, one of us is sick. So we now can move into these different components. Like if I got sick, I know my wife would want to throw me in the JDU, right? And visit me when, especially if it's cognitive, she'd want to visit me when I was doing the best during the day, right? And so, and then if I even wanted to, I could put the care person in the ADU. Then let's say I pass on, I die. Well, now we're back to square one. Now we got two that were generating income. And there's studies that show that women are the best at taking care of short-term rental properties. Senior women are gifted at it. And the biggest problem with seniors can be isolation. So giving somebody a job or a purpose to kind of look over the property has had some really good results. I know it kind of sounds like a nightmare. You don't want some grandma knocking on your door with flowers and banana bread every day while you're staying there.
I don't know. I love banana bread.
I do too.
I do like banana bread.
Too.
Definitely.
But so there's these options with care and with income. I mean, what are we doing? We're just bringing in cash flow, trying to meet these increasing costs, so that's kind of what I was trying to illustrate with this. I just took a budget. I took $140 a square foot on a garage conversion. I like the garage. You don't have to do it. You could convert a portion of your house, take a bathroom and add it to a bedroom and wall it off with a side door. But I was saying, okay, this is a nice garage. It's a 2-bedroom garage, 480 square feet. It's not big, but that came up to about $67,000. And so that's the JDU.
That were financed. What's the payment on that, do you think?
Well, I have no clue. Oh, because we're talking reverse. I don't really care. I mean, it would be what it is. I know you see, that's funny. So that's what we're clicking in, right? Because on a forward mortgage, I want to know what that's going to cost. But today we're wearing our reverse mortgage senior hat. It does have an internal cost. It's $67,200 at probably 4.6% interest only, compounding on a basis, right? But I don't have the answer in this illustration because most people that have reverses don't even care.
So how does the reverse pay? Like, I mean, apologize for my ignorance, but I'm not connecting how a reverse gives me $67,200 with zero payment.
Well, we're gonna get a chunk of dough from the reverse to do the whole project.
Oh, okay. So with a reverse,
yeah. So this is a piece of it. So here's 67,000. Let's do the ADU. That's the next slide. The next one is okay. The ADU. We're gonna go for the brass ring here. We're gonna do a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot. That's not 230 is wrong. It's $230 a square foot.
Yeah.
It's not $2.30.
No, maybe that's Bali. Like, I'm not sure where you're
at. Yeah,
at.
right. And then that's 276 grand is what I'm saying there. I have looked at these ADUs. They're not, if you can do it for 150 a square foot, you are really doing a good job. And so, and there are prefab ones that you can drop on the property with a crane. There's a lot of different ways to do them. So, but I just kind of took what I thought was, so the next slide. So we've got a 2-bedroom, we've got a 1,200 square foot pad in the back, and we've converted the garage, and we still have the main 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. So that's what we've got. And so then if we add those two together, we're at 343. And that might be what it would really look like, right? 2-bed, like in your backyard. I kind of like that.
You asking a question about the prefab there, Ken, or sorry, came through kind of.
Yeah, I was curious. So, like, there's a lot of manufactured homes.
Yeah,
a lot of dealers out here, and a couple of manufacturers. I think Cat was one of them. Pacific Specialty might be another. Do they make these as well, or are these?
Yeah, they do. I was talking to a guy the other day. About 25% of his current inventory is ADUs.
Yeah,
So they make them, and he was running an ad in the local paper here saying he could do it for 50 or 60% of the cost of stick built. I question that.
I've actually looked into that a couple of years ago, and not for an ADU. But it was, you're looking, back then I was getting quoted 1,500 square foot house, brand spanking new manufactured home dropped on a property. And it was going to be 120 grand with all the bells and whistles.
Yeah, that was then.
Mm.
The only, from what I know about the prefab ones, they are already built in a factory, so they stand up to all the Title 25 requirements. And so you don't have to go through the inspection process. You basically get the pad done and you drop it down on top of it. And for me as a lender, I've got to have that thing financeable. So it has to meet certain requirements as a manufactured home, which these do. But you can't just roll an Airstream in the backyard and tell me that you want me to finance.
Right. The benefit to the manufactured home, especially again, to somebody that might be a little older and doesn't want all the disruption of a 6-month to 12-month build out, right?
Yeah.
With the manufactured home, I mean, for people to understand out there, it's interesting. It's like they do a little bit of site prep, but I'm talking like they come out and just put some gravel in the spot where the thing's going to sit, and that's your site prep, and stamp it down. But then 4 or 5, 6 months later, when the home's finished being built in the factory, they bring it out, drop it on your property. It takes 1 day. They
Right.
tape the thing together, do a couple of the finishes on the inside. They're out of there in under a week.
Yeah.
Everything's complete. So they disrupt your life for about a week.
Yeah.
And that's
There's
think
some really
they're
cool YouTube videos up in San Francisco of them lifting these things over homes.
Yeah.
You know, they have to take down power lines and stuff, but there's a number of ways to do it. But in this illustration, I'm just saying, hey, we can do both these things for a little under 350,000, 343,200. And that's how much money we need to do this. And then the last slide, I think, in this presentation talks about, okay, so this one is, okay, where are we going to get the money? And so I'm using a fairly, North County home value of $899,000 or a hair under 900 grand. That might not be a home in Utah or one in Nevada, but I was just thinking in our neighborhood. And I was also thinking that the borrower has no mortgage, free and clear. And so that is, I looked at, on reverse vision, I ran the calculations. So basically, if you're 65 years old, you qualify for at a rate of 4.6%, which you don't pay, it's internally growing. You get about 365 grand. So that gives you 21 grand left over. If you're 75, the older you are with reverses, the more you get. And so at 75, it's 420,000. You got 76,000 left over. And then at 85, if you're doing this at 85, so I got an 85-year-old that's sitting there and really needs care and has the patience to deal with this at that stage of the game. 510 is the number with 166,000 left over after you build the property. So in these reverses, those can stay in a line of credit. So you can have access to those in the future when you want it, if you need it. So I'm thinking 85, you better be a good sport, because that's a lot of rocking and rolling at 85. If let's say your kids get behind it and say, we're going to do this, Dad, we're going to do this. We got to do this for Mom and Dad. Because at 85, I mean, maybe goodness, I hope I'm strong enough to be orchestrating a development project like this, right? But I'm thinking the sweet spot is around 75, but you could do it as, probably as low as 62, which is the minimum required age for the FHA reverse mortgage, or the HECM, we call it HECM. So it's there, but you have to have a house that has a value of around that amount by my calculations, unless you can get the project costs down lower than 343. It does seem to me like, gee whiz, couldn't we really do both of these things for under 350 grand? I don't know. I don't know if that's not what I'm hearing when I when I talk to the industry, when I
Right,
listen
right.
out there on the industry.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
And well, but I guess my question on that would be that I wonder how much, so if you spend 400,000 adding, building one of these in the backyard, what does that generally add to the value of the home? Probably a couple $100,000, right? Because you could,
I'm talking off the top of my head, but I think dollar for dollar increases the value.
yeah.
I think
Right.
now I've got a 3-unit property. I know it's not, I've increased the square footage by 1,200 square feet,
Yeah.
right? I've tucked the other one into a garage. You have more livable space. I don't think you're getting beat up there from a lending standpoint. I can now rent. I think this is right. I'm checking on it, but I think I now consider this a 3-unit property or a triplex, which allows me to get more money for, it has higher loan amounts that I can do. Because let's say one day the kids take it and they want to refi it. Let's say one day mom and dad pass away and now you've got this property. Well, now it's a 3-unit property. So, anyone can, if you see this on the internet and you say, David, you're full of it, it's not 3 units, the JDU doesn't count as one of the units, let me know. That'd be great. I want to know. And I will find out more of this as we go. But I've been looking at this more and more from a lender side. But come hell or high water, we're going to have a number of 3-unit properties in the state of California.
Yeah, it used to be a long time ago in a past life. I did real estate appraisals for a couple of years, and the square footage, if the square footage were equal on 2 homes, but one of those homes, that square footage included an ADU in the back, let's say, or a JADU that was a separate unit.
Yeah.
Those were always worth a little bit more because they had the potential to create a little bit of income and gave you some, so. Yeah.
It's an improvement. I like it. Look, everyone can do whatever they want with their money. Sometimes over these refinance booms that we've gone through, I sometimes think maybe we could have done with less travertine and we didn't need a quartz bathroom, that type of stuff. I'm kind of a practical thing. That's just the world I come from. These are bread and butter improvements to create options. And honestly, what did we just do? I mean, in that very first slide on cash flow, we just threw in, if you live in the house for 3,000, you've now got 3,200 in extra income. That's the bottom line, right? So, and how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? Energy costs go up, my trash and water go up. And also to answer like Andrew's question and stuff, like, what about my kids? So the reality with the kids usually is when the parents pass, they usually sell the property. I don't have the statistic, but it's very rarely that they, especially if there's a number of children that are involved in this state, they usually, but I think it gets a higher value. So
I don't know. I kind of feel like by the time, like, again, you get a single family home in an area where the kids don't live. I mean, I feel like the chances, sure, pretty good chance you probably sell the place rather than deal with renting it. But if you could then turn that into the triplex instead, because it's already been set up that way, I don't know. Seems like
property. How about in the North County? Whoever has the most kids gets the biggest square footage. You have 3 kids, you get the house. You have 1 child, you get the ADU. You could incentivize your family to have children and try and manipulate them.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're a single person, you don't want it, then you're in the JDU, and the ones that have children, it could be quite a romper room. You could have a park in the middle with a swing and stuff, and everybody could live happily ever after. So
beautiful. So I like your idea. Maybe just close it out here. I like your idea.
Yeah.
I like who you're focusing. I like that you have an avatar of who you're focusing on in this presentation. I think it makes a ton of sense for that. Well capitalized in the home senior for sure. Like you say, it seems like that could be the low hanging fruit for sure. With that said, there's probably other people who could take advantage of this type of program and maybe like my mom, for example, built a ADU in her backyard. She used a HELOC to finance it.
Right,
Now those rates have gone up significantly. I haven't really talked to her the last year,
Right.
but kind of, right. So that's kind of interesting about a HELOC. You don't have that locked in financing. But I guess my question for you is like, what level of equity in your home in here in SoCal, where higher dollar amount homes generally, what level of equity do you think this becomes interesting? If that's a fair question.
well, unfortunately, with where the rates are right now, the calculations to get a reverse mortgage have made the amounts that we can get a little bit low. But the reverse mortgages don't give you, I mean, my goodness, what are they giving me in that first assumption in that slide? They're giving me only about 40 to 42% loan to value on value of my property.
And
So
that's
they're
max.
not,
That's
yeah,
a max.
max, right? And so
Yeah.
that's why this illustration really only works if you're free and clear, you have very little mortgage on it, right? But I think on the other side, off the reverse thing,
Yeah. Off the reverse thing.
I mean, you got $1 million house and
Yeah.
you need 300 grand. And hopefully, I can, equity lines go up to about 90% combined loan to value. That's where they go. We really don't have the 100% stuff anymore working for us.
Combined
So-
loan to value. So combining with the primary mortgage.
With the first, right? So let's say I've got a borrower, like I have a borrower right now on my desk. She's got 550 as her loan amount. She has a house that's worth 900. I'm going to take her to 89.9 on an equity line and get her a line of credit. I think she gets 230,000. So on the forward side, we can have loan balances, and young people are doing that, right? They got a house, they got in maybe 2-3 years ago, and they've already seen 100 grand, 150 grand growth, and they want some of their 20% back if they were lucky enough to do that. That's what they're trying to do. That's how they're trying to do these ADUs. And I don't think they're as ambitious as JD doing all three. I mean, the one that I think, and I've been telling young people around here, is, my goodness, find a 3-2 house with a 2-car garage and just do the JDU.
Yeah.
And then right there, you've got a source of income. You've turned your property into a 2-unit property. And you're not doing new construction, you're under the roof. So you can just, what is it, drywall, bathroom, 67,000, right? 67,000, I can bring in an extra 1,300 a month to cover my mortgage.
Beautiful.
Right? So it's happening. I mean, I can't believe it, actually. I come from a world where if your house was a single family when you bought it in a neighborhood with single family homes, it would stay like that till hell freezes over. That's not happening. It's changed. The playing field has really changed, and that's pretty wild. And it'll change the insurance business. It'll change, for you, Andrew, too. I think if there's less pressure on people to come to you for draws and proceeds in retirement, and we can solve it by untrapping equity, it gives us all more options, to weather the storm. These are real problems. I've seen them as a certified senior advisor. I've seen when you don't have the capital or the resources to take care of yourself, it can be quite a difficult situation. And so, I thank God in California we have Medi-Cal.
Yeah.
I even know where to take you in Baja if you want to go into nursing down there at much lower cost.
There you go.
I'm trying, Ken, to get that built on a surf spot.
We'll save that part of the conversation for next time. That sounds even more interesting. Ken Talley, any closing comments or questions for Dave or what else?
No, not really. I think at least from the insurance side, it's completely doable. People do it all the time. It's not a big deal. The VRBOs and the Airbnbs, that's a different thing altogether, but perhaps for another episode. Those are also doable, but they've got some spots that you need to look out for a little bit. And as long as you do that, you're going to be fine.
Beautiful. Well, no, I think that's a great place to wrap it. Our first episode of Rainmaker's Roundtable. Thanks for tuning in, and please leave us a comment, let us know what you thought and how we can, ideas for next roundtable, stuff like that, or questions for
Yeah.
Dave, questions for Ken, etc. So with that, thanks for tuning in. Have a great
Yeah,
rest of
thanks
your
for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.